I bet the grocery store is like mobbed right now. Everyone getting last minute shopping done for Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. If you live in certain parts of the North Country, a trip to the grocery store can be like an hour drive or two. A farm in the Champlain Valley is sending fresh food to families in one far-flung community deep in the Adirondacks, saving a little trip and a little holiday thanks. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And the Devlin Inn and Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, November 26th. First up, a Mohawk Valley assemblyman who'd considered entering the race for New York's 21st congressional district will instead run for state senate. Republican Chris Tague of Schoharie had been floated as a possible GOP candidate in next year's race for NY21. Incumbent Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is running for governor. Two other Republicans are already vying for Stefanik's seat. Assemblyman Robert Smullen and Sticker Mule CEO Anthony Constantino have officially announced their candidacies, setting up a possible primary in June. All this year, the Adirondack Park Agency has been debating how to expand access to wilderness areas for people with disabilities. It considered allowing electric mobility devices like power wheelchairs and scooters in those areas. But green groups and public commenters push back, fearing the impact that would have on the park's wild places. Ultimately, the APA did not include that provision in its latest amendments to the Adirondack State Land Master Plan. Instead, the APA says it will work with the Department of Environmental Conservation on a statewide effort to expand access for people with disabilities. Pat Bradley reports for the New York Public News Network on all the master plan amendments that Governor Hochul approved last week.
The Adirondack State Land Master Plan is the guiding document for management of 2.9 million acres of public lands within the 6 million acre park. Adirondack Council spokesman John Sheehan says the amendments will move the conversation about power-driven mobility devices for the disabled to a statewide forum.
The Department of Environmental Conservation manages access to public lands across the state, and having one policy inside the Adirondack Park and a separate one in the rest of the state didn't seem to make a lot of sense. We're pleased to see that that's been transferred over to DEC.
Sheehan says that the amendment avoids the potential for damage to the forest preserve as a result of the use of motorized vehicles by the disabled.
By moving that to a statewide process that involves all public lands and not singling out wilderness areas as places that might need motorized access, which is, of course, destructive of the very idea of wilderness, I think we're on the right track now.
The amendments do not define so-called other powered mobility devices, or OPDMD, for people with disabilities. They are defined under the ADA as, quote, any mobility device powered by batteries, fuel, or other engines that is used by individuals with mobility disabilities for the purpose of locomotion, unquote. The devices include electric wheelchairs, electric scooters, golf carts, and Segways. Accessible Adirondack Tourism founder Nick Friedman notes there has been an ongoing effort by the Adirondack Park Agency and Department of Environmental Conservation to define the devices and their impact on natural areas.
How do we reconcile our obligations legally to comply with the ADA, our moral obligations to provide people with disabilities access to the very spaces that those without a disability can access, because access means equality. And then you wind that in to our naturalist perspective and our fierce desire to protect our beautiful Adirondack wonderland. It is complicated. And all of these moral, legal, and emotional ties are really what we're trying to balance.
Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board Executive Director Gerald Delaney hopes the amendments will make the Adirondacks more accessible to people with disabilities.
I really feel that the disabled have been ignored, and this is everybody's park.
The master plan was also amended to eliminate deadlines for the Department of Environmental Conservation to remove abandoned or out-of-compliance structures in the forest preserve. In Plattsburgh, I'm Pat Bradley for the New York Public News Network.
Even though we live in an agricultural region, many small communities here are still considered food deserts, with little to no access to local food and grocery stores. This Thanksgiving, a nonprofit decided to connect a tiny Adirondack school district with locally produced fixins, free of charge. Kara Chapman has our story.
It's one of those frigid November mornings. North Point Community Farm hands load boxes of fresh vegetables into a U-Haul.
They are an assortment of our vegetables that are all Thanksgiving themed.
That's Marissa Linetsky, one of the farm's co-owners.
There's a butternut squash, 3 pounds of sweet potatoes, 3 pounds of gold potatoes, 1.5 pounds of Brussels sprouts, 3 pounds of carrots.
North Point, on the outskirts of Plattsburgh, is one of 6 North Country farms supplying the food that's getting loaded into the truck. Linetsky will soon drive it to Indian Lake Central School in Hamilton County, about 2 hours away. There, it'll be assembled into Thanksgiving boxes. Each will have a slew of vegetables, apples, and either a pasture-raised turkey or roast. Indian Lake Board of Education members will then personally deliver the boxes to all 125 families and staff in the district. The food boxes are part of 80K Action's Farm to Family initiative. Executive Director Sawyer Bailey says it supports a small community where there aren't a lot of local food options. She says Indian Lake residents often have to drive an hour round trip just to get to a grocery store.
And it is a long distance to the farm. It is a long distance to what you need. So what we wanted to do is bring the farm to our families, to our friends and neighbors in Hamilton County.
Bailey says it made sense to work with Indian Lake Central to make this happen because the school is the hub of the community. Principal and Superintendent Melissa Melvey agrees.
Because we're so small, the beauty is that we know all of our kids and we know their families. And we know those who may have a lot of pride and may not necessarily be wanting that extra hand of help, but we go above and beyond where we'll put together packages, we'll do birthday presents, we'll do Christmas presents.
Indian Lake School runs a lot of assistance programs, like a backpack program that provides food to students on the weekends. Operation Santa Claus buys presents for families in need during the holidays. Melvey estimates that a little more than half of her students are on free and reduced lunches. She says this is a tough time of year for some families, so she hopes the boxes help make their Thanksgiving a little bit brighter.
Maybe for some, because they knew in advance that these are being delivered, it kind of alleviated a little bit of that burden and thinking, how am I going to be able to afford the turkey and the stuffing and the potatoes this year? And now they know that they didn't have to worry about it.
Back at North Point, Linetsky uses a tractor equipped with a forklift to put a cooler full of turkeys into the U-Haul. Linetsky says it's important to the farm that high-quality, local vegetables are accessible and affordable for everyone.
It should not be a luxury item, but something that everyone gets to enjoy. And spreading that, especially to a place that doesn't have great access to fresh food, feels really meaningful and important.
Bailey says she hopes the Farm to Family initiative raises hope, joy, and awareness heading into the holiday season.
I think we take it for granted that everyone can gather around a table with like a beautiful bird and all their family, and we just want everyone who wants that to be able to have it this year.
Bailey says everyone, regardless of their income or where they live, deserves the best food available. She says taking care of our neighbors helps lift us all up. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio, Plattsburgh.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Story of the Day will be off for the holiday tomorrow and Friday, back on Monday. Music today by Alan Dunham of South Glens Falls, which is south of Glens Falls, and Ben Cato of Jay. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.